For our viewers, let's pull it out and talk about it.
Dark City?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dark City is a very complicated story. It's a mashup of so many genres. At its core, stylistically, it's film noir, which means it's very dark. It's got a protagonist who's kind of trying to do a detective story, usually to unlock a mystery. What you find out is that the mystery involves basically aliens that control everybody who lives in this city. There's a lot going on in this one, but then it gets into the question of free will, because it turns out this city that he's living in is a giant experiment that these aliens are running constantly. It's on a nightly basis. They reset people and they change what their professions are, what their memories are. It looks like it's some grand experiment about, watching how people react under different circumstances, if there's core parts of you or if things are completely manipulatable.
Very classic debate, of course, the whole nature and nurture thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they throw in the fact that these aliens have telekinetic powers and that this guy is given by a turncoat human who had been working with the aliens to assist them with their work. He's given access to the same powers they have to manipulate the world and use his mind to fight them. He's the one. Before Neo was the one, right? He's able to take out all the aliens because he's stronger, better, faster at it. He's the chosen one, so to speak. And he ends up freeing, he doesn't free the people. He changes the world and lets them now have choice. But they're still trapped on this cityscape, right? He probably can't. They're in space. You find out that this is a giant craft in space, which doesn't mean that he can really probably go back to Earth, right, where the humans are most likely from.
Yep.
Is just letting them live their lives and now on a nightly basis not be reset. The big visual way they represent this is because it was always night, right? It was perpetual night. And at the end, he allows the sun to come in. So it's visually showing that now they can come into the light. It's a very easy kind of visual cue for people to pick up.
And very powerful, yes.
And it's very powerful. But if you start thinking about it, it's like these people are still trapped in that world, but he's not really able to do much more for them anyway. So he's given them as much as he could. So they're as free as they can be. So that's the happy ending.
Yeah.
But that's why it's a real dystopian thing, because if you start drilling down to it, they're trapped in the last iteration that the aliens had put them in.
I was going to say, it might not be such a happy ending for the guy who, a week ago was the world famous $1 million actor, but then the night before this all went down, he got switched to janitor.
Well, that's what I mean. So if as long as you won the lottery and your last iteration was the best one that you've had in a while or could get, and there's no real karma to it, right? People might have been living good, happy lives, allegedly, and then they get moved up or moved down just based on what the aliens' choices were. So it's not like there's any real karma to how he locked people into their lives at that point. So that's why
kind of reminds me of the Truman Show.
Oh, yeah, that's another good one.
That's an interesting dystopia.
Because in that case, the rest of the world was a normal world, but it's like for just this one man, you're right, like they locked him into this artificial world as a TV show.
But
for him, it is dystopian. For everyone else, it's a job.
No, but you can look at it. The way you can go further with that, and what the Truman Show is getting at is, if you're watching it, you'll notice that they keep cutting to people who are completely invested in watching his life. Like, these viewers are completely glued to watching his show 24 hours a day.
Yeah, and no longer concerned with living their own.
Yeah. Exactly. And so it's kind of layers of manipulation, because if Truman's life is being completely manipulated and they're watching it thinking they're watching him just living his life, everybody's being manipulated by, in this case, it was Ed Harris playing the director who was making all the choices for Truman's life since he was born.
And Ed Harris is amazing in everything he does.
I mean, he even elevated The Rock, which is one of Joey's personal favorites.
He didn't elevate it, okay? It was already at the top, and he was icing on the cake.
Yes. But to go back to the Truman Show, though, I remember there was that key line where he's like, I wanted to let somebody live a normal life. And that was a very interesting quote. It's like, what is a normal life?
Well, especially since throughout the him letting someone live a normal life, he then, as Truman wanted to make more and more decisions and be more and more free, so to speak, like the director's controls became more and more obvious.
But I mean, it gets into, there's a lot of stuff that can qualify as dystopian when you start really thinking about the fact that it's more about being trapped into something that you don't have control over.